Grief is the natural response to loss. I wasn't naturally feeling my feelings, and it took a toll on me physically. My encouragement to you that no matter what you are grieving, no matter what's going on in your life, feel it. I beg you to feel it. Because when your emotions are bottled up, your body feels the brunt of that. For me, my heart was knocked out of rhythm. Before I start diving into it, I want to give a little bit of background. In 2018, I was at work, typical work day, nothing too much going on. Then I got a phone call from my wife, and I answer the phone, and she's bawling, crying. I'm like, okay, what happened? That's the first thing that came to my mind. What happened? And I think I had an idea, but it can't be that, but it could be that. But anyway, I was like, okay, what's going on? And my wife had called to tell me that my great grandmother had passed away. So I'm like, okay. My great grandmother that was my heart. That was my heart. That woman practically raised me. She practically raised many of us. But that was my heart, man. My great grandmother, knew things about me that no one else knows. One of the things to where it's like, I know this right here, but this is our secret, Stevie. And I'm glad to have experienced so much life with her, and I'm sure many others can say that, but she was my heart. So when my wife called and told me that, I'm like, okay, I'll be there. Because I think my wife at the time was on the way to her house where I think family was starting to gather, and I was working in Silver Spring, so I had to get from Silver Spring down to Bryan's Road as fast as I could. And my mom's like, I need to hurry up and get there just to be there with family and whatnot. So I'm like, okay. I go and let my manager know, and my manager said, oh no, go take care of it. And I'm still at the time, I got the news. Emotionally, I wasn't wrecked though. She passed away in her 90s, so it's like, yo, this woman lived quite a life. So I wasn't saddened that she wouldn't continue to see what else was to come of the world. I wasn't saddened that she wouldn't see how else her baby boy would grow and mature. To me, it was like, all right, just let me get down there. Let me get there. I just need to be around my family. So I felt like it took 10 minutes, but I got from Silver Spring to Bryan's Road very quickly. Before I actually got to the house, though, I pulled over right before you get to the street or the dirt road where you return to our house. I pulled over and just cried a little bit because I didn't want to get there and be crying like everybody else. I didn't want to, I understood it was a time to be emotional. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to get there and be able to be the consoler or the comforter or help make whatever decisions that could be made with a clear mind. I didn't want to be so overdrawn with emotion that I couldn't be of a benefit to anybody else. So I pulled over on the side of the road, cried maybe like 15 seconds. It wasn't one of them like big heaping cries. It was just like, okay, just some sobbing. Got it out of my system. Got to the house and, was there with family and whatnot. And it felt like things moved so quick. She passed, and then I felt like that next week we were planning her funeral, and there were decisions to be made and things to arrange and all of that, to where at that time for me, it was mostly like my mind. I had to help figure out things and, make decisions and what are we going to do? And, once again, be a consoler for other people, to where like, all right, this is sad. This woman meant a lot to us. Let's do right by her in our planning of her funeral arrangements and things like that. So the wake, how they have like the viewing, and, people will say kind words and it'd be music and all of that. So we had that the night before the actual funeral. I remember, I don't know who it was, but it was like, you gonna say something? You gonna say something? And I felt like, man, I can't not say anything. Here I go with these kids. I have to say something. A lot of people in there knew that this woman opened her house and home to me, and I was there for a lot of my teenage years into my adult years. She took care of me. I took care of her. We did a lot for each other, and I kind of felt like, man, I have to say something, not just for her, but I feel like people were expecting me to have something to say. So I just didn't know what to say, though. I went up there, and my first thought was okay. I wanted to make a joke, because that's kind of how I get through tough emotions. I joke and I laugh, and I make other people laugh, and it brings a relief to me when I can do that. So my first thought was to crack a joke. I can't even remember if I got a joke out at the time, but I went up there and I really spoke to the importance of family, being family, taking care of each other, helping each other out, being supportive, loving on your family when they're here. And in being up there and speaking, I broke down. I cried like I hadn't cried that hard in probably ever. I was boo-hooing up there, big grown man up there just crying. I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't like trying to hide my feelings. I went up there to kind of sway my emotions, but I couldn't. I was an emotional wreck up there in front of family, which I think helped a lot. But it was normal. It was normal to feel that way. It was normal to express myself in that way. But my body wouldn't let me hold it in any longer. So, like, man, this is the first time I really cried after the loss of such an important person in my life. Then we get to the funeral. Had our funeral, and that happened. Of course, it was an emotional time. I didn't cry. I didn't cry during the funeral. I was just, once again, wanting to be in the role of comforter and all of those kind of things. But inside, I was grieving the loss of my great-grandmother. So the night of the funeral, everything's all said and done. We go back home. It's my wife, my daughter, my two nieces came to spend the night, and myself. We go back to my house, and I went upstairs, and I'm like, all right, I'm tired. I feel a little drained. I need to go get some sleep and just lay down and just separate myself and just relax a little bit. It's been pretty eventful. So I go upstairs, I lay down, and it's like, okay, might be on my phone for a little bit, but I lay down and I'm tired. So I try to go to sleep. Next thing you know, my heart is pounding. That's the noise, or that's how I feel my heart beating. And my first thought was, am I having a heart attack right now?